Hi, Greg Weldon here with Weldon Live for Thursday, September 6th. And we have a special Weldon Live for you. I've kind of put aside the macro live I was working on from Monday with the ISM data broken down. We gave you a taste of that in the briefing, rather on Tuesday. But we have to go with what's happening in global stock markets. We have to go with what seems to be now a move to evolve further in what is an emerging market crisis that is now feeding potentially into even places like Europe and the US. We've seen it in Europe. We now, maybe right here as we speak, are seeing it start to flow into the US. When you talk about the number of currencies that are at or near record lows, central banks that are raising rates, bond yields at prohibitively high levels that will crimp economic growth potential, stock indexes on the verge, and that's really the point of this piece, is to look at the breadth of risk intensification among the emerging market stock indexes. Let alone the fact you have two countries in South America, Argentina and Brazil, or Argentina and Venezuela, that are in crisis, in a bona fide meltdown style crisis. Two totally different stories, autonomous in the sense that they're separate, but not at all separate in the sense that you have the risk of contagion here very high, because Brazil currency already through 4 on the verge, the Bovespa now on the verge. We're going to look at that in a second. It emanates to Chile, Uruguay, Peru, all of them, Colombia. All of those markets are now theoretically, coming into play. Okay, so in that sense, we look at Asia. In that sense, we look at Eastern Europe. In that sense, we look at what continues to be happening in Turkey. And this emanates into Spain and into Italy, where you have socialist countries, where you have separatist governments. To some degree, at least, they hold more power in each of those two governments than they ever have before. And in Italy, enough power to potentially leave the euro. This is not over. That's not a done conversation. And with what's going on in Spain, well, I'll tell you what, they're on the hook for Argentina and Turkey. They're the country with the most exposure to those two places. And let's not forget, both of these countries, Spain and Italy, are countries that have massive debt. 97% to GDP in Spain, and 135, 137, and rising in Italy, which is anyone's academic definition of a crisis in the making, just by that one mere fact that it is above 100, that it is actually above 130, and that it is rising. When you are rising and above 130, every study out there puts you in a crisis mode. So all of that, to me, gets back to, and then the U.S. is supposedly immune? I don't think so, because the U.S. Fed raising rates, part of the problem here. When you talk about dollar debt, when you talk about the dollar flow, when you talk about all of kind of what happens there, the end game is you have what you see happening right now in emerging markets. And you can correlate the Fed move to the emerging market bond index inverted almost perfectly. The Fed funds rate hikes have led to a massive move in the emerging market bond index, which has led to a massive move in the currencies, which is now leading to a potentially massive move in the stocks. To think the U.S. is immune is to suggest the consumer is as healthy as the CEO of Target would have us believe when he goes on CNBC and says he sees the quote-unquote strongest consumer in 25 years. Well, again, steroid strength does not mean internal organ strength, because this is all on credit, unprecedented credit growth, unprecedented linkage outside of 2000 in household wealth to the stock market. If the stock market goes down, the consumer's on the hook. He's upside down again, just like in 2007. And you have a crisis, and you have a situation where the U.S. is not immune. A MACRO-GEO-STORM has formed. I talked about this in June, and as I tend to be when you're talking about these massive storm developments, we were early, and I don't think that really anything has changed. It's only intensified, and at the same time, the level of complacency has gone up. So you're talking about a major, typhoon or hurricane or what have you headed right at you, and nobody's going to the store to get water. Nobody's buying batteries. Nobody's loading up on generators. Isolated, contained? I don't think so. Look at the countries listed here. All these countries are in play, every one of them. And then we come right down to the U.S., bottom line. Totally owned, tech bubble, overextended, consumer, in debt. And this is what you got. And this is the slide we used back in June. And it's more pertinent now. And we actually said this sets up into August with a September, October, kind of denouement. And that's where you are. So this is how we do here at Weldon Financial, Weldon Live. The entire dynamic that we offer here is 100% of me, essentially. One product, one price. You get all of this: the Weldon Live, the full live dissertations, the chart back that comes with it, the briefing, which is a midday, more timely, shorter, a report, a lot of updates on trades. The client-only Twitter feed, where we disseminate information. Tomorrow, payroll, for example, we'll throw out a few thoughts on that there as well, and how it might impact the markets. And then, of course, Trade Lab. All the trades in all the sectors, and you get alerts. You can now opt in or opt out for email, text, and Twitter alerts. So email me directly if you haven't had a trial. Get on board. I mean, I like to call it the research that pays for itself, because for 21 years I've been doing this, and that's what it is. And 35 years in the business, and worked with some of the greats in the business, and some of whom are still my clients, including, well, some I can't mention, but to the extent that Victor Sperandio is one of my favorite guys in the world, and he just loves the work. Dennis Gartman, always a mentor of mine. What can you say about Jim Grant, another mentor of mine, and of course the always omnipresent Grant Williams. So anyway, get access to Weldon Live now, 3 weeks for free, research that pays for itself.